Retail management operates on a relentless equation. Time is money. In a high-traffic commercial space, efficiency is measured by how quickly a floor worker can convert a browsing shopper into a paying customer and move to the next. We are looking at a dataset built from 473 retail professionals across a dense, active commercial environment in Izmir. The goal of this research was to isolate exactly what makes a salesperson effective under constant volume pressure. This model illustrates the core operational metric used to measure that efficiency, MGS, or Müşteriyle Görüşme Sayısı. That translates strictly to the exact number of customer meetings required to successfully close a single sale. For decades, corporate strategy has relied on a specific assumption to optimize this metric. The prevailing logic states that hiring highly educated individuals and putting them through rigorous, continuous sales training will minimize the MGS. Better training equals faster sales. The Izmir dataset comprehensively rejects this. When the researchers cross-referenced the meeting counts against the highest degree earned by the salesperson, they found a net zero correlation. A university degree does not produce a faster close than a high school diploma. Furthermore, isolated data on continuous, role-specific sales training yielded the exact same result. Employees who undergo regular corporate sales training do not require fewer customer meetings to secure a purchase. Optimizing for the rapid, single-touch transaction through education and training is an empirical myth. If these investments do not make the sales process faster, we have to evaluate what they are actually doing on the floor. By addressing hypotheses 3 and 4 in the study, researchers cleanly discarded formal education as a predictive variable. It fails to forecast both the speed of the sale and the positive behavioral approach of the employee. Testing for on-the-job experience, however, yielded a tangible metric. The data shows a measurable positive correlation, an R-value of 0.120 between a worker's tenure and their MGS metric. This presents a counterintuitive reality. Highly experienced staff actually require more meetings to close a sale, not fewer. And as tenure increases, top performers deliberately abandon rapid transactional tactics and shift into slower, trust-based relationship building. Because surface-level demographics and resume bullet points fail to predict operational efficiency, the research required an entirely different lens. We have to measure the psychological mechanics of the encounter itself. Through factor analysis, researchers mathematically condensed 19 field variables into 4 core behavioral pillars. First, general approach, measuring communication and appearance. Second, in-sale behavior, tracking active engagement. Third, objection handling, isolating reactions to customer resistance. Finally, pre-sale preparation, quantifying situational readiness. With the 4 pillars established, the researchers could isolate the true return on investment for corporate training. They split the dataset, testing the trained cohort against the untrained cohort across these specific behaviors. The maximum friction in any transaction is the customer objection. Conversational momentum halts, pressure spikes, and the sale is mathematically most likely to fail. Comparing the cohorts, the top-line metric shows no variance. Training does not compress the sales timeline. But within the pillars, we see massive statistical divergence. The trained group's scores for objection handling and in-sale behavior register highly significant improvements. In practice, untrained staff react poorly to friction. When faced with customer resistance, the data shows they either freeze, ignore the complaint, or aggressively push back, frequently terminating the encounter. The trained response is entirely different. Trained staff systematically absorb the pressure. They neutralize the objection by generating solutions in real time, keeping the dialogue open and moving the customer past the friction point. The true value of corporate training is not acceleration, it is structural reinforcement. It fortifies the salesperson's behavioral mechanics so that the timeline of the sale does not collapse under pressure. Training builds resilience, but human beings also arrive with inherent cognitive traits. This raises an operational question. Does a universal, perfectly optimized salesperson exist? The retail landscape is highly fragmented. Moving 20 feet down a commercial street means transitioning from selling high-end apparel to complex telecommunications infrastructure. Tracking required personality traits across different environments proves performance requirements are highly volatile. In personal care, where meeting counts are low, aesthetic presentation and basic communication dominate. shift to electronics, and those drop, replaced by sharp spikes in analytical thinking and problem-solving capacity. Taking a top-performing employee from apparel and moving them to electronics without accounting for this cognitive mismatch is an operational liability. A high performer in one sector will fail in another if they lack the specific trait matrix required by the product. Sales efficacy is strictly context-dependent. A generalized talent search yields mediocre results. Management must deploy highly segmented, sector-specific hiring criteria tailored to the exact cognitive demands of the floor. Once we discard the assumptions, we can engineer an operational system based entirely on what the data supports. This flowchart represents the final, reconstructed model of a retail encounter. Formal education is crossed out. The meeting count is locked as a neutral baseline. Success is calculated strictly by combining a candidate's inherent, sector-specific traits with their trained capacity to handle objections. For management, this dictates 3 strategic shifts. First, stop optimizing for speed. The data proves that punishing staff for higher meeting counts actively damages the trust-building methods used by your most experienced personnel. Second, human resources must stop screening resumes for generic educational credentials. High school or university degrees do not correlate to closed deals. HR must instead test for the specific cognitive traits, like analytical thinking or high empathy, demanded by their specific vertical. Finally, corporate training programs require a total overhaul. Resources spent teaching rapid closing techniques are wasted. The curriculum must focus exclusively on relational resilience and friction management. True retail dominance is not achieved by rushing a customer to the register. It is engineered by deploying a highly adapted, psychologically resilient sales force, built specifically to survive the friction of the floor.